Coca-Cola and Mickey Mouse are household names around the world. If some very powerful men in Los Angeles get their way, the name DreamWorks will join that list of global American icons. The home planned for this 21st century entertainment company would create a new mini-city in Los Angeles, built on a vast marsh within sight of the Pacific Ocean. But the story of this ambitious development and the men who want to make it happen is also the story of a region in transition from an economy heavily dependent on manufacturing and defense to a new information-based economy. That's the subject of this Marketplace special with David Brancaccio.
Marketplace presents The Other Side of Paradise, starring Los Angeles Mayor Richard Riordan, who's working hard to bring good jobs back to his city.
When I took over as mayor, City Hall was the enemy of the entertainment industry.
Director Steven Spielberg, who yearns for the freedom of his own movie studio.
I want to create a place driven by ideas and the people who have them.
Real estate developer Robert McGuire, who's worked for years to get his billion-dollar project off the drawing board.
There's an opportunity to try to create the community of the future in kind of the most encompassing sense.
Bruce Robertson, the environmentalist.
According to their tradition, anyone that builds on this land is cursed.
And drifting through it all, the legacy of one of the richest and most enigmatic men in American history. Our story begins on a short hike through the Bayona Valley of Los Angeles with the environmentalist. I'm walking along a gravel path that snakes through more than 1,000 acres of undeveloped land, not far from the Pacific Ocean in West LA. You wouldn't expect to find terrain like this inside one of the world's major cities. But environmentalist Bruce Robertson is showing me that these lush green wetlands are teeming with plants and fish and trees and birds.
That's a white-tailed kite that's flying along right there. That's a hawk-like bird that preys in wetlands. You can see him flying low right over there. He's probably going to light on that bush over there. He likes to go there and rest in between hunting. There he goes.
The willows, pickleweed, and sagebrush shake in the breeze. The Bayona Valley contains what many say is the largest tract of undeveloped land in urban America. The animals that remain are a reminder of the region's primordial past. Centuries ago, Native Americans named it Sa'anga and buried their dead here.
According to their tradition, anyone that builds on this land is cursed.
Robertson says that's one reason it's tragic that people driven by ego and profit are planning to build a movie studio here, along with the largest real estate development in the country. A few hundred paces further into the wetlands, we start to discern the outlines of several curious man-made structures, the hulking remains of the old aerospace company built by the eccentric industrialist Howard Hughes.
The Hughes aircraft plant you can see right over beyond the freshwater marsh here. It's about 1.5 miles away, and that's about 60 acres of the only 60 acres of developed land in this entire valley here.
More than a half-century ago, Hughes placed the heart of his aerospace empire right here in the Bayona Valley. I'm standing outside one of Howard Hughes' old-fashioned airplane hangars as workmen roll open its giant wooden door. The kind of work that went on in this mammoth building once powered the nation's economy. While LA has long been famous as the center of the film industry, it was aerospace and defense companies with names like Hughes, Lockheed, Northrop, and Douglas that had the real clout. Starting at the beginning of World War II, they helped anchor the U.S. economy and created hundreds of thousands of high-paying jobs during the Cold War.
Defense is costly, but not nearly as costly as war.
This 1957 Movietone newsreel features Defense Secretary Neil McElroy.
You will now see some of the ways our defense dollar helps to protect our freedoms.
One of these B-52s costs as much as 40 World War II bombers, but each can carry a payload equal to all the bombs dropped in War II. Throughout the world, they're poised to retaliate at a moment's notice.
During those days, Hughes made his share of warplanes here in the Bayona Valley. He also spent the then amazing sum of $25 million building the Spruce Goose, a giant wooden military plane that made it just a few feet into the air on its first and only flight. But today, the Cold War is over, and the country has found that it can no longer rely on the aerospace and defense industries, and this plant has closed down. It's the white-tailed kites that now rule the skies here. The idea that building airplanes and war materiel can generate enough jobs to keep the economy prosperous is now as obsolete and antiquated as these old Hughes aircraft hangars. While Southern California's aerospace and defense industries fell into a collective tailspin, a famous filmmaker yearned for his own studio. Steven Spielberg has created films that people around the world equate with American culture and the American way of life, from Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark to E.T. and Jurassic Park. In 1994, Spielberg got together with a pair of his Hollywood friends, former Disney executive Jeffrey Katzenberg and the town's richest man, music mogul David Geffen, who was looking for something new to do with his life and his money. In the autumn of 1994, Spielberg and company announced they were creating a studio they later named DreamWorks.
Hollywood movie studios were at their zenith when they were driven by point of view and personalities. Together with Jeffrey and David, I want to create a place driven by ideas and the people who have them.
Hooray for Hollywood, that screwy ballyhooey Hollywood.
Indeed, hooray for Hollywood. That's the tune business leaders and politicians in Southern California have been singing in the 1990s. Because as the region lost an estimated 360,000 aerospace and defense-related jobs, Hollywood added just as many. Paramount, Disney, Fox, Warner Brothers, and the other studios had grown into giant corporations, much bigger than in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, the time when Steven Spielberg believes the movie factories were at their zenith. Today, the studios make vast sums of money by exporting movies and television shows around the world to people in Rio de Janeiro and Paris, Moscow, and Seoul. Jack Kaiser, Los Angeles County's chief economist, was watching in the 1980s and 90s as this new multinational star was born and grew rich.
In the old days, you just did a movie and then you tucked it away, and it laid in a film vault and probably deteriorated.
But no more, says Kaiser. These days,
you get your money from domestic exhibition, from video, from international exhibition, from international video, from character merchandising, from the music rights. And so it's sort of like you get everything out of the pig, including the squeal.
DreamWorks was trying to become one of these modern international companies, and it would need a good home. Perhaps a large patch of mostly virgin land where studio honchos could, in Steven Spielberg's words, create a place driven by ideas and the people who have them.
Hooray for Hollywood.
The mayor of Los Angeles was in his car when he heard on the radio that Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen had announced their new studio.
I picked up my cellular phone and I said, get me Jeffrey Katzenberg.
This could mean lots of high-tech jobs for my city, Richard Reardon was thinking, and he was going to try to bring the studio to Los Angeles. When Reardon was elected in 1993, the multimillionaire businessman pledged that City Hall would make it easier for the lucrative entertainment industry to do business in L.A. That's why DreamWorks was so important to him. The studio represented multimedia and entertainment industry jobs of the future.
It also will just magically cause other multimedia businesses to want to locate in Los Angeles, and we've already seen that. We have recently passed Silicon Valley in the number of multimedia businesses in Los Angeles. These are golden jobs, jobs that every city in the world would flip to get.
Golden jobs because they're the high-paying, creative, knowledge-based jobs in the new information economy, and they're replacing all those old-fashioned aerospace positions that have been lost. Eventually, Mayor Reardon offered DreamWorks $70 million in tax incentives if the company would set up shop in the Bayona Valley and anchor the Playa Vista real estate development that was on the drawing board. The mayor's plan worked. In December 1995, Spielberg, Katzenberg, and Geffen, along with the mayor, the real estate developer, and scores of California's most powerful people, gathered inside one of Howard Hughes' old aircraft hangars. Steven Spielberg held court.
This was so ideal, it was almost meant to be. When you want to start with just talking about passion, because all of our lives are driven by that, you have to understand that there must be some kind of karmic relevance that we are here in a hangar that Howard Hughes built to bring his dreams to life.
Yes, the mayor had succeeded. DreamWorks would be the most famous tenant in the $7 billion Playa Vista development planned for the Bayona Valley. Meanwhile, environmentalist Bruce Robertson led a group of people who stood outside Howard Hughes' old aircraft plant and shouted in protest. They would soon file a lawsuit to stop Playa Vista.
This project will have 5 times the density of the surrounding neighborhood, making it the largest development in the history of Los Angeles. So you have a total of 50,000 people in this valley every day.
Robertson, who has a flair for public relations, has been telling anyone who listened to remember the lessons of Poltergeist, the Steven Spielberg movie in which bad things happen to characters who heedlessly build a big real estate development on an old burial site.
That's sacrilegious, isn't it?
Oh, don't worry about it. After all, it's not ancient tribal burial ground, it's just people.
By the end of the movie, the spirits had exacted their revenge. However, in Los Angeles, where second chances and surprise endings are a way of life, the plot twists never seem to end. That just ahead in Act 2 of this Marketplace special, The Other Side of Paradise.